Hi, I'm Dave Marlon. Welcome to the Marcus Deegan Show.
The Marcus Deegan Show. Oh, what's the story, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Deegan, shooting from the most spectacular, hottest place on earth, Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us for another podcast. We've got another Las Vegas local in the building today. We're going to have a great chat here. First of all, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you leave a little comment or a thumbs up, helps with the algorithm, okay? We're trying to build our YouTube channel. We're killing it on Spotify and on social media. We need to build this YouTube up, so do me a favor. This content is free. Don't be that guy that, takes the dollar out of the jar. Be the guy that puts the dollar in the jar, but I don't want a dollar. I just want a like, a subscribe, a share. Thanks for joining us once again. You know what I love? I get to talk to so many different people, right? I get to speak to people from all different genres, from different countries around the world, rich people, fighters, actors, people in the entertainment industry. And it's a lot of take. What I love is people that want to give for no other reason, for no monetary reason, for no other reason than they just want to help people. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to help people? What's the reason for it? Is it for your own self? Is it because you were hurt? Is it because you see the pain and misery in front of you that you need to do something about it? Do you want to follow in the footsteps of Jesus? I don't know. We're going to find out today. There's a gentleman that runs a fantastic organization here in Las Vegas, VEGAS STRONGEra. And what it's about is it's about helping people. It's about recovery. It's about the homeless. It's about giving back. It's about community. And I've got the founder of the place in here today. He's a boxer. He's handsome. He's built. He's a good-looking man. Dave Marlon, welcome to the podcast.
Such an honor to be here. Thanks for that killer intro.
Do you like that one?
Very much so.
You're looking well for 60, though.
Thank you.
What's the secret?
Not smoking crack has really helped.
Really?
Yes.
I think that would be good for the wrinkles, is not smoking crack. Was that your drug of choice?
I liked What Do You Got?
Yeah, I love that one too.
Although everything kind of started and ended with alcohol.
Yeah, okay. That seems to be the big one, doesn't it? That seems to be the one that will lead you to that crack pipe.
I just have, I used to think it was like a machismo. I have the ability to drink more than most humans. And I thought, that was like my thing.
Yeah.
And ever since I was 16 years old, and when I stole a keg out of a bar and dragged it back to my house, I didn't have a tap, so I used a screwdriver to squirt it into a pitcher. And as soon as I drank that magic elixir, I had found the answer to life. I like beer.
When it hits your lips, it's so good. Yeah, and that was where it started for you, would you say?
Yeah, it really did. Although, thinking back, I fantasized, I disassociated, I felt like I didn't fit in, when I was in school, when I was supposed to be dating. I had a dysfunctional family growing up. So all of that, I'd always felt sort of less than. And when I'd found alcohol, I was Marcus Keegan, man. I was on fire.
Yeah.
And I felt I could take anybody, and the girls wanted me, and the guys wanted to hang out with me, and everything was cool. So to me, alcohol was the solution to what I was looking for until it wasn't.
Right. Now, was your dad, was he that same way as well? Did he drink as well? Do you come from a family of drinkers?
My grandfather, stone cold alcoholic his whole life. My father was a partier, and he drank and did hard drugs until the day he died 2 years ago. So, and he felt like he did it right, party until the very end. He passed at 78 years old. And
he partied until then?
He
drank
partied
and
smoked and did hard drugs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. His body held up then to go to 78?
And his mind, which was startling to all of us.
Wow. And I mean, they say that, addiction is something that's unfortunately for a lot of people hereditary. It skips a generation sometimes. A lot of people don't like to believe that, but unfortunately, it's normally the truth. If you look at anyone that has any kind of substance problem, then you will probably realize that there's people in their family that has those kind of issues. I wanted to do this podcast because, I'm very open and forward with my journey with drugs and alcohol, and being new into my sobriety, I like to be associated with people that are, have a little bit of experience with their sobriety. I attended treatment, which cost me everything I had. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me the first time around. But one thing it did teach me was I got a little bit of education and understanding of why I was doing what I was doing. So progressing up to, you said you went from alcohol and then it was just pretty much all holes barred.
Yeah. In meetings I share that it went from alcohol to Ziploc baggies. I found when I had the Ziploc baggies that the girls wanted to be with me. I was the cool guy.
So you were selling it as well?
I sold.
Or you just always had it?
I always had it.
Yeah.
I sold in college. When I graduated college, I still had enough soundness of mind that I said, if I ever get popped for selling drugs, there's no way a 25, 26, 30-year-old person could rationalize selling drugs. So while I, sold some weed in college, I never sold any drugs whatsoever after I graduated.
Right.
But I
you consumed them all.
I consumed them all, and copious amounts.
So what was your field of employment? What did you do through those years?
It's interesting. I grew up in New York, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and the answer to life in America at the time was get money. And it was also the way my dad raised me. It was like, you go to church, and that's kind of for show. The answer to life was get money.
Yeah.
So, I got an economics degree. I went to try to get a job on Wall Street. I got offered a job to come to work for a publicly traded company in Las Vegas when I was 23. So I took 4 hefty bags, which were my clothes, and 2 milk crates of albums. And I took a plane to Vegas, and I worked at an insurance company for 20 years. And to me, during the time I got my MBA, and the answer was always become CEO. And it took me 17 years. But after 17 years at the insurance company, they came in and said, Dave, you're no longer the chief operating officer. We fired the CEO. You're now the CEO.
Wow.
And I remember kind of being surprised. And I was like, I had thought once that happened, then I was going to be enough.
Yeah, right.
And it was like, all the sex in the world, all the prestige in the world, all the money. I've my last 3 years at the insurance company, I was making 7 figures. But it wasn't filling the hole that was still inside of me.
That's your addictive side of your brain, always wanting more and not being fulfilled.
Yeah.
It's always, you know what, even when you're sober, that shit's still there, right, Dave?
It is. And in the intro, you kind of hinted at it. I often say that at first I went to college, I was a philosophy minor, and I used to take mushrooms and smoke weed, and I would talk to people trying to figure out life. What's life? And it wasn't until I got clean and sober that it happened very quickly. It was within the first year or two. The answer to life is helping others. I'm going to say this again. The answer to life is helping others. And when we do that...
I know I'm going to cry during this podcast. I can feel it already. See, nothing's changed, Chase. I still cry during my podcast.
You're just a big old sap, man. I love it.
But that's it.
No, it really is. And I ended up opening up a drug rehab. It became the largest in the state. I had 400 beds, helped 7,000 people get clean and sober. And I was on fire. But we had reached the point where I thought we should go national. And instead of going national, I sold it to a publicly traded company, and they made me a vice president. And, they paid me, more money than I ever thought I would get. But the same thing, the day after I woke up and, there's $20 million in my account, I still made coffee from my $19
Didn't
Mr.
really
Coffee
change?
pot, still had to walk the dog, still had to make the bed. And at the end, it was just still me.
Yeah.
And money, sex, the CEO, that stuff doesn't do it. The answer is to help people. So after I sold the rehab, I bought a house in Del Mar in San Diego on the ocean. Had a new wife. I like smoking cigars. And I'm like, all right, this is it. and I would pray. I would pray every single day, and it started becoming really loud whenever I'd pray. Sell the beach house, go help the homeless.
That's what you were hearing?
I was hearing, and I was like, "That's so annoying."
Were you
That's
hearing it in your head, or was it an auditory? Do you even know? Like, you didn't hear it from down the hallway, right? You heard it in your brain?
I heard it, and it wasn't an auditory hallucination.
Right.
It was more an overwhelming feeling.
That's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, of what I should do.
Yeah.
And it happened, and I told my wife, and she's like, "But this is great. We have a beach house." And I'm like, I got to do this. So I sold the beach house. I opened up Vegas Stronger. We now have 50 clinicians, 4 prescribers. We help 60 unhoused every week get off the streets and come in. And to me, that hole that used to be inside me, the answer is in service. The answer is in helping people. The answer is in being a good human.
Your facility is in an area that is shocking to see for the people that live in Henderson, or for the people that live, in the upper, the places in Vegas that don't get to see the area where you're. I saw those poor people down there. And let me tell you something, and I don't know why, but it breaks my heart to where I feel guilty for having what I have.
Same. On Friday last week, I have a new GMC, a 2024 GMC, and someone from our parking lot came and used a rock across my new truck. And my first feeling was, I wanted to go out and I wanted to break limbs one at a time. That was my first thought. And then I breathed and I was like, all right, let's check the cameras, so we find out who it is. But after reflecting,
you found out who it was?
I haven't yet. They're still going through the cameras.
This is at your work, this happened?
This is right at my work. It's a cost of doing business. Our windows have been broken 4 times. Our catalytic converters from our vans have been stolen 5 times. There's a cost of doing business in the most underserved area in our community. And to me, I was reminded of it, when they keyed the whole side of my car on Friday. But to me, I recognize that's a sick person, and rather than breaking their legs, what I need to do is, I need to help them. So, got to shake that shit off.
Yeah, you're way better man than me. I don't know if I could let that go as easily. I think I would definitely want to have to get retribution for that in some way, because I would feel that. I don't know. It's bizarre that automatically I'm not at the same level as you. Maybe not even spiritually, because automatically all I could think of was finding that motherfucker that did that, give him a little bit of a smack around, and get his insurance. But it was a homeless person, you think?
I'm sure. Yeah, and psychotic.
Yeah.
Because that's what's walking around in the streets right now.
Can you tell everybody that's listening and watching on YouTube where that area is?
They call it the Corridor of Hope. And we're on North Main Street. So if you know Fremont Street in the downtown area, there's a freeway that goes right through there, and no one goes underneath the freeway to that, what used to be the black part of town. And now they've put all the homeless services there, and our clinic is right in the middle of it.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to drive down that street and see all those tents on the side of the road. And the first thing that came to mind for me, someone that likes to have the air conditioning at 70, how are these people surviving this heat?
Agreed. I mentioned earlier this morning, the Today Show, they interviewed us just because of the heat, partly because Vegas hit the 110s 30 days earlier this summer. So, we're in for a scorcher, and, people will die, particularly when they're using xylazine, when they're using fentanyl, when they're using heroin, and nodding out in that heat. It's an absolute killer.
So is that the problem that's going on in that part of town right now, is the xylazine and the heroin and the fentanyl?
And methamphetamines, yes.
Similar to what's going on in Philadelphia, and that you see that one street in Philadelphia where all the zombie people are half bent over. Is that similar there?
It's interesting. I talked to I have a kind of a collection of rehabs I talk to, and xylazine hit Colorado and then even California before it hit Vegas. I started testing clients in August of last year, and I didn't get my first positive until May.
Wow.
So xylazine has really just hit Las Vegas.
Oh, no.
I know, it's terrible.
Can you, sorry to interrupt you again, Dave, can you explain to people that don't know what xylazine is? Can you explain it?
The street name is Trank, and it's a sedative tranquilizer that does not respond to Narcan. So if you take too much heroin or too much fentanyl, we try to Narcan you, either with an injection or a nasal mist, and you'll be revived. It's an overdose reversal kit. Doesn't work with xylazine. And like fentanyl got mixed with the meth and with the heroin, now they're starting to mix xylazine with each of those drugs as well. So it's...
So meth and... Xylazine and meth are two completely different compounds, right?
They are, and as are opiates. That's a third different compound, yes.
So that can't be good, being high on the meth and then being zapped down by the trank. That's got to be bad for your heart, right?
You know...
Or is it...
I haven't done heroin or xylazine myself. However, you know, I've drank 15 beers. And then if you showed up and said, I have some Jack Daniels, I would say, I want to level up. So I understand that if somebody's, you know, smoking heroin for a while and somebody says, hey, I got some fentanyl, it's way stronger. I understand the natural reaction for a person with like a brain like me is like, fire it up. That natural, you know, desire to get higher. Even when people say, oh, this could be dangerous. You know, humans who have a substance use disorder, which is 9.2% of Americans, it's a big number. Those of us with this genetic propensity, you know, we're just wired wrong, and we want to keep leveling up.
And you know what's so disappointing and sad, Dave, is that people that are in the situations that you and I had previously been in before, and that the people that you're helping are in, they don't seem to believe they can get out of the position that they're in. How do you help these people to understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to sticking needles in your arm and shooting trank and meth and then standing out in that? How do you first approach them to go, look, this can change? How do you do that?
We do three things. I have 7 full-time team members who do outreach, and each of them are in recovery, and they reach out a hand. And I'm going to say...
They actually reach out a hand?
They reach out a hand. Grab a person by the hand, as I did yesterday and the day before, to a person who's unhoused, and look them in the eye and speak to them with compassion and just say, there's another way. And to me, I don't believe any of them grasp the enormity of what's happening at that moment. Yeah. And I don't even think the folks who are in it for a week or two, they still don't get it. So what we have is I have 88 employees, and we have a recovery-oriented system of care. The building's all graffitied. We give them food. We'll give them cigarettes. We get them clothing. We'll give them a shower. We obviously get them in a bed, have them start developing a relationship with a counselor, get them into a group. And you probably did some groups.
Oh, every day we did group.
And to me, that group dynamic ends up kind of replacing this chasm from the family that was gone.
Yep.
And in that group, some of the denial slowly gets broke down. Mm-hmm. The example I like to use is because I went to counselors before I got sober. And when I went to see, I saw this one Harvard psychiatrist. And he's like, well, what's the presenting problem? And I was like, my wife nags me. My boss doesn't appreciate me, and the cops pick on me. Those are my 3 problems. And he sat there and helped me come up with some coping mechanisms to deal with a complaining wife. If I said that same...
Can you give me that one?
Now, if I said the same thing in a group of people who drank and used like I do, they would laugh in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, all of a sudden, there's nothing more therapeutic than being exposed.
Yeah.
And saying, wow, maybe the fact that, you know, on Fridays, I often don't come home till Tuesday. Maybe she nags me because of that.
Yeah.
Maybe she nags me because I break her heart every single day.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I break everyone's heart because, I'm addicted.
Yeah. So when these people come in, do you ever think there's no hope for this guy? This guy's just way too far gone. Because I'm sure you see some, and I suppose for the state, because they're mentally, most of these people have mental issues, right? Would you say 100% of them do?
No, but in the high 80s.
Really?
So most of them.
So like schizophrenia or bipolar or depression, those kind of things, maybe
Exactly.
Those four there?
Yeah, a lot of mood disorders.
Yeah.
There's anxiety, more schizophrenia, and the numbers are increasing. And to me, we kind of have a perfect storm because substance use is increasing right now. Mental illness is increasing. And the crossover of the two, it's a perfect storm. They just reported the new homeless numbers for Las Vegas, and we're up 56% over the last 3 years. And to me, this is devastating for the people who are unhoused. It's devastating for me and you and our community who want to go to our parks or walk in the street. And to me, it's potentially catastrophic to our economy because people are starting to associate Vegas as a place where there's vagrants, where there's panhandlings, where there's the smell of marijuana, where it's a dirty place, as opposed to just 10 years ago, which was the glitz glam place to go, spend your resort dollars.
You are so right. People are having that thought about Vegas now. And you say it's increased in the last 3 years. I wonder why.
The
economy has got to be one of the reasons that pushes more people onto the street. They can't afford to pay their bills.
I think the economy and the affordable housing crisis is still part of the iceberg that's below the surface. The people who are on the street who we're seeing, these people are mentally ill or they have substance use disorders. If there's a guy working at $15 an hour and he's kind of getting pushed out, he's crashing on a couch, he's going back to his family, he's trying to sort it out, or worse comes to worse, he's willing to go to the shelter. Yeah. He's not setting up a camp, on Fremont Street or down by the railroad tracks. To me, that's a later stage, often treatment-resistant, unhoused person.
And it just elevates how dangerous it is at this time of the year, considering the temperatures for these people. I mean, how long can you last out there? How do they do it? How?
It's startling. Yesterday I was talking to guys who were just laying in the sun, obviously impaired, and just letting them know it's 100 yards, or I'll drive you to our facility. You could take a shower, you could get some cold water, you could get some fresh clothes, you could have a meal, and it was almost always, tomorrow or the next day.
That's what you hear a lot?
Yeah. Not right now. And to me, I recall they tried to intervene on me a few times. And if you try to intervene on me when I have a plastic baggie in my pocket, talk to the hand.
Yeah.
Because, sorry, I'm under control of something else right now.
Yeah.
And there's no way I'm going to go with you to rehab when there's something in my pocket.
Right. Yeah.
It's an impossibility. So I get it.
You would think that their rock bottom would be what we see, but it's obviously not.
I regularly get shocked at how low of a bottom could get. Although the question you first asked me is, do you ever think some of them are too far gone?
Right.
And I have been shocked so many times that you stabilize somebody on some psychotropic meds. You have somebody not use meth or fentanyl for 180 days, have them sleep in a bed and eat 3 square meals, maybe jump around in the gym 5 days a week. Almost all of them improve so dramatically that they get to self-sufficiency, that they could, so often the question is, oh my goodness, I need to find my kids. I got to get my kids back. So seeing the light come on almost always happens.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's the most encouraging thing. The whole issue, and this is the secret sauce, they got to do it.
Yeah.
They got to, if they do it, and we focus on immediate access to treatment, integrated treatment with psychiatry, so medication management as well as the counseling and case management, peer support, fitness, nutrition, and then we have long treatment durations. To me, if you're homeless using fentanyl for 10 years, thinking you're going to get well in a 2-week or a 3-week treatment episode is just illogical. We have long treatment episodes. I regularly have unhoused clients stay with us for a year. And that's how long it takes for someone to get well who's been out there for a while.
Yeah, and this is what I've kind of spoke about this subject before when it comes to realizing, you know, the difference between living a normal, clean life to being all messed up is that you need to have clean time. I always say this, you have to have clean time under your belt. I say a year, 2 years, more 2 years, definitely 2 years, and your brain starts functioning again, your memory starts coming back, you start realizing, you start being able to have the ability to say no and to put yourself in positions that, you know, potentially could make you relapse. You don't go around that. But like you said, you need to have clean time. Sounds expensive though, Dave. How do you fund this and where do you get funding for this?
2 comments. When I ran the biggest treatment center in the state, you know, I learned that it was, 20, 30 grand per person to put them in a bed for 60 to 90 days. And I recognize we have, at this point, 42 million people in our country with a substance use disorder. Wow. And that I wasn't going to be able to convince anybody to write that check. However, when I looked at the cost of running an inpatient treatment center and realized that the counselors, the case managers, the psychiatry, they end up being 10% of the cost, that most of the cost ended up being room and board. Now, Vegas Stronger is within a mile walking distance of 2,100 shelter beds where people are getting off the streets and they're getting housed and fed. So to me, I just needed 10% of the rehab costs to bolt on to the existing social infrastructure to be able to help solve the problem. So yes, it costs some money, close to $10,000 per person. But to me, with 7,500 unhoused in Vegas right now, you know, that's a check well worth writing. If we can get half of those people off the streets and being self-supportive, that would... To me, people would want to visit a city that solved the social condition. It used to be what happens in Vegas, you know, stays in Vegas. That's a great slogan for 20 years ago. A way better slogan for our next decade should be Vegas got their shit together. Yeah. They solved the social condition of homelessness. Let's go there.
That might be a bit hard to get on a T-shirt, but yeah.
Well, I was overly verbose.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, Vegas has a soul.
Yeah, it does. Considering all the things that have gone on here in the last 10 years, I'd say. You know, with October and you know, COVID, and how did that go for you guys during COVID?
You know, at the time, I was running a detox center, and I was worried because they were sending me notices that, you know, my staff didn't want to come to work, but everybody still wanted to get paid. And we were like on a shoestring anyway. So I ended up converting one of the detox units to a COVID isolation unit. And it was very funny because at the time they were taking some asbestos out of my ceiling. And I watched the contractors do it. They took it out and they just put up 2 sheets of plastic and had a HEPA air filter running, and they were just running a decon chamber while they took out the asbestos. When the guy was leaving, I was like, hey, can I give you some money? Could you set up a decon chamber down in one of my inpatient units? And he said, sure, easy. So he put it up. So I videoed it going in, and I sent the little TikTok to some of our county and state folks. And I said, hey, by the way, there's this COVID thing happen. I happen to have a COVID isolation unit. And they immediately sent me a contract paying way more than I was getting for rehab. Wow. And I had a medical director who, he was kind of like a big anti-Dr. Fauci guy. And he was like,
aren't we all?
Yeah. He was like, I'll get masked up and I'll handle it, Dave. So we had good medical staff. I paid my nurses time and a half to be able to deal with it. But we were able to stay open, and we actually thrived during COVID by pivoting.
It's kind of like the UFC. They thrived during COVID as well because
they accelerated.
They accelerated.
Yeah.
Because people like you and Dana weren't going to let something like a worldwide pandemic mess with what you guys have got going on. I respect the hell out of that.
Tell me I can't do it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. You're a fight fan, plus you're a fighter. How many fights have you had, and are you going to have another one?
I've had on my card. I have 3 amateur bouts, and I won 2 and I lost 1. I've also had 4 charity fights where I went and fought a pro, which were just as fun. And to me, anytime you cut weight, do a camp, and then climb under the ropes and get in the ring while there's lights and people watching you,
Everyone should do it, right, Dave?
Everybody should do it. It's so wonderful. To me, I tell people, they're wearing big pillows. They got 16-ounce pillows. It's really mostly a mental thing. Granted, you got to have some cardio, and I happen to be blessed with a
decent chin.
A chin that I like eating a couple punches.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, give me something to get me started.
Yeah. Well, the mind, what you said, that that's even more so than the physical, actually, is the mindset, and your mind is
so much. I remember the terror. I fought in the Hard Rock once. I was on the first card on an undercard, and I remember getting in and climbing under the ropes, and I was just like, am I going to slip and fall? Not like just from the excitement, just never mind the fight, because it was so much running through my head. But once you eat a couple, it becomes very quiet.
Right. Isn't that weird how that happens?
The only thing in the world is your opponent.
Yep.
And then it's get to work and start figuring out the combos to get in. And to me, I love that mental aspect of it.
It's funny, kind of goes along with like getting sober. People don't understand what they look at boxing and they look at fighting and they automatically think, there's no way I could do that. How do you get any benefit out of that? How do you get a endorphin rush out of that? And then they go to a few boxing sessions and they do it. There's no bigger endorphin rush than when you finish a good session, right?
Agreed, which is why we have a ring and a full fight gym within Vegas Stronger.
This was my segue, Dave. This was my segue, brother. So that was one thing I liked. So I wanted to just talk. Oh, you're gonna take the. Yeah, he's gonna take that jacket.
I'm all excited.
Look at this guy, 60 years old. Oh. There he is. He was born in the 60s. I was born in the 70. I was born. What were you? 60? You were born 1960?
1964.
1964. All right. Look at this guy.
But before we jump, if I could, you had said something about time, and I didn't want to let this go.
Yeah.
While I was getting my doctorate in psychology, I was learning about neural pathways. And to me, I have this rap that I do where I found that I was in a groove. And I was a good boy, and I went to school, or I went to work, or I took care of my kid. And then I got to go have a drink or a bag. And to me, I did it year in and year out, day in and day out, and that became my groove. When I decided it wasn't working for me, I needed to find a new neural pathway or a new groove. Now, you had talked about time, and for the first few years, it is very easy. Your new groove, your new neural pathway isn't formed in your brain.
Right.
It's so easy to slip back. You know, if your partner looks at you funny or leaves you, or if there's a justifiable resentment which occurs, or something that's not fair, falling back into that old groove is very easy. Yeah. So to me, developing neural pathways over a period of more than 2 years are really important, and consistency to development to get a new groove.
And it's successful. It works. If you work the program properly, it works.
It totally works. And to me, I'm living proof, because, my DNA, my genetic predisposition, I'm a party animal.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink or a drug in 19 years.
Wow.
And it's only because this recovery program works.
19. Well, 3 months on 3 years.
That's amazing. And to me, you got a new neural pathway.
Absolutely, I have now.
Yeah.
100%. When I went to treatment back in my 30s, although I did learn a lot, and it was one of the best experiences of my entire life, I don't think I was just so young that I just wasn't ready to get, and I was living in Vegas, and I was the star of the show that I was performing in, and I just wasn't ready. 3 years ago, I got ready, and I got to be honest with you, it's been easy.
Nice.
It's been easy. It's kind of been like a light switch in a sense. Every now and then I'll get a little, but it's gone within a minute or two. You know what I mean?
Same. And to me, it's a matter of perspective.
Yep.
Me not drinking, some howler liquor is ever in my life is the hardest thing in the world. How could I never drink alcohol again? That's, almost impossible. But for the next 10 minutes, can me and you not drink alcohol or not do drugs?
I don't know. That's looking pretty tasty right there.
It's a matter of perspective. If we're here in the now, you're right. It is. It's easy.
Yeah.
If we future trip, how am I not going to drink a cold beer on 4th of July? You're right. That sounds hard. But just be in the now. Right now, I'm clean and sober. I love it. I love that my partner, that my 2 sons, that they know they have a sober dad.
Yeah.
That my mom knows that no matter what, she can count on me, that any of my employees or my sponsees or my sponsor, they know they could call me and it's not going to go to voicemail because I'm on a runner.
And people will respect the hell out of you for that, because when someone changes their life around from the negative to the positive, but you've even done more than that. Now you're giving back to the next level. And it makes me want to give back more. It really does.
And to me, the more you do, the more joy you're going to get, the happier you're going to be, the more fulfilled you're going to be. The thing that I was trying to fill so many years with sex and drugs and alcohol and money that didn't work at all, helping others totally does. So it's truly the answer. I know there's, some monks and some priests and some rabbis who figured this out. I was just very slow to the party.
Right. And do you think that's the yin and yang, the circle of life, the positive, the karma, what goes around comes around, you giving back and helping people only elevates your life?
It absolutely does. And my presence. And it increases my ability to be more helpful, to be more inspiring.
Yeah. And I see you're all over the news and you're everywhere. Like, everyone knows who you are. Vegas Dave.
I've been in Vegas. I've now treated over 10,000 people, helped them get sober. And to me, there's nothing better than being in the supermarket and
seeing someone,
having somebody run over. And I won't call them out, but if they come to me and say, hey, thank you so much for getting my son back, or so much, I was like, thank you for doing the hard work and being supportive. But that's so much better than, I don't know.
Hearing that they're dead.
Yeah. Well, and I've been to more funerals than anybody should have to. I do.
Senseless funerals too, just for nothing. Like, fuck.
And it's usually our kids. It's the 20 and 30-year-old us. Who unfortunately are overdosing and dying. More than, we're over 120,000 overdoses in the last 12 months.
What is that? And it's fentanyl, right?
It's mostly fentanyl.
And where's this fentanyl come from? China, right?
It is.
Yeah. How's it getting into the country over the border, right?
Most of it is coming to Mexico and then coming in through our southern border.
Yeah. And once again, I don't like to get political on my podcast, but in this day and age, you cannot help but get political due to the fact that the policies and the government has run the country into the ground in such a way that there's been more fentanyl deaths in the last 3.5 years. There's been more homeless. There's been more job loss. And it all comes down to, look, I could go on for hours about this. I don't want to go down that political track because it pisses me off.
To me, what's really cool is the Metropolitan Police Department are probably our biggest fans. They're at our facility almost every day. Well, we work very close with the Clark County Detention Center, the city, the county, the state. Just about anyone who's working in this dynamic recognizes that the answer for somebody who's on drugs is treatment.
Yeah, and not jail.
Not jail. It's treatment. So they're like, thank goodness that you are here. How do we help you? So, particularly the police. When we go do an intervention on the homeless, they're standing there like, do you want me to arrest him? That's the only tool I got. I'm like, can I talk to him? Like, please do. I talk to him. Hey, they want to come with me. Great.
And they're cool with that? They would prefer that now these days instead of just locking them up?
Just about anybody would.
Yeah.
And the judges would, the police do, the corrections officers do. Everyone recognizes when a person, even if the person doesn't,
Yeah.
that it's a substance use disorder. You know what? Let's check out a group. Let's get kind of settled, hang out there for a while. And to me, it's really 2 weeks. If they stick around for 2 weeks in our program, we got them.
Yeah, we got them.
We got them. And then they go through it, and then they get well.
Vegas cops are awesome. I love Vegas, the Vegas police. The Clark County Detention Center, been there a couple of times. Not a big fan of it. Don't want to go there again, actually.
We actually have a desk inside. Vegas Stronger has a desk inside the detention center. So I have staff who work there to go out and regularly talk to folks saying, when you get out, instead of getting out the back door on First Street at 2 in the morning, why don't you fill out a kite, which is a request form, and Vegas Strong will pick you up and take you to our facility when you get out.
Wow.
To me, it's so smart, and I hope more and more inmates take advantage of it and start developing a new neural pathway immediately upon exiting.
Guys, you can do it. You realize you really can. And you're looking at people like Steve-O. You're looking at people like The Situation from Jersey Shore. You're looking at your host that you're listening to right now. I was the last person I ever thought was going to get sober. And none of my family did either.
Same.
None of them. You'll drink yourself to the ground. You'll die. You'll stick another in it. I never thought you can do it. Trust me. Hey, if Steve-O can do it, guys, you could do it, right? How good's Steve-O now?
Yeah, if yesterday you told yourself that today's my last day, or the day before you said, I'm not going to do it again last weekend, then you're the one we're talking to.
Yeah.
You can do it. Call us. We'd love to help you.
Is there a hotline number or is
There is.
Yeah.
I hope you're not going to ask it to me.
Well, we got all your lower thirds up there, so people can find out through. You got the website, right? Vegas.
Yeah, VegasStronger.org. The number's on there.
There it is, right up there, guys.
We help anyone.
Yeah, VegasStronger.org. Now let's just segue back into this. I just want to talk about when I first met you. So I was told about Dave, and from a good friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, and when he gave me the address of where it was, I was like, no. All right, I'll go down there. So I go down there and I pull into the car park and I'm kind of looking around. I'm thinking, fuck, what is this place? And I kind of knock on the door. And, yes. Oh, I'm here to see Dave. Who is it? Oh, it's Marcus Deegan. Okay. Come in. He's in the gym. So I go in and I'm looking around and then I see this fit guy in the corner sweating. And I just thought, oh, gosh, this is uncomfortable. Hi, Dave, I'm Marcus. And he turned around and I was just rather impressed by your stature, your physical stature for someone that's 60. But then I see this gym that's like out of, you remember Rocky when Apollo took Rocky into the gym to teach him the new way? It's one of those old sweaty gyms in there and there's fighters and there's a ring and I love the atmosphere straight away. Fighting's a part of your life, right? You love boxing. Are you a fan of the UFC?
Absolutely, I am. Dana White sent me the first bags that were hung in our gym.
Okay, when he says bags, he's not those like the boxing bags is what we mean, not those bags. Right. Yeah.
No, heavy bags, like 80 pounds.
Do they have the UFC logo on them?
They did.
Wow.
Yeah, and we wore them out. Matter of fact, about 2 months ago, I went to see Dana, and I brought him. He had gave me an uppercut bag, which we had literally, wore out from punching. So I had a bunch of the fighters sign it, and I brought it back to him as a thank you because, back then nobody knew who Vegas Stronger was. Well, now in Vegas, most people have heard of Vegas Stronger as an answer. So I appreciate him being willing to support. And to me, I get the feeling Dana does a lot of that, just very quietly.
Absolutely.
Without any fanfare, just, talked to his assistant. And then a week later, a truck came and delivered also a bunch of fight posters, which also help with the environment. Because to me, when you get a 20-year-old who's been on the street, who's been using meth, who's used to getting a rush, just like you talked about, come on, son, let's do a boxing class. They very quickly learn that the rush is even better.
Yeah.
And it's not hurting you. And it's not fake.
No, it's not. Not fake like the WWE. Although I do love the WWE and I have respect for those guys. But yeah, man, I love that gym down there. And so how many of the people that you pull off the street actually get into boxing? You have some people that... Once they sober up, do they come in there? And is that...
I wish it was more.
Yeah.
It's 1 or 2% of them. Now, every client meets with a personal trainer 3 times a week, and we develop a program for them. And maybe it's, pedaling slow on the bicycle or working on the treadmill or doing some stretches. But every client, while they're with us for our average length of stay is 137 days. So every client not only does counseling, not only sees a psychiatrist, not only sees a doc, but they see the personal trainer, and we develop a fitness program for them.
Yeah.
Only a couple % of them end up getting into mitt work and bag work and then getting in the ring. And we want them to do that for a while before we have them do sparring. Some of them are dying to get in.
Yeah.
And all our coaches kind of
sparring's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Do you have any celebrity boxers or anyone from, any UFC fighters or anyone go down there and do sessions with anyone or come down and say hello and maybe give pep talks?
We've had all kinds. Manny Pacquiao, he wrote us a check, and he had his son come down and fight. We have bouts. We're actually having our 9th bout on, I think it's July 26th at the Westgate. We have about 800 people who show up, and we have 10 or 12 amateur fights.
Do you have a ring announcer?
I was going to say...
I know a guy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Here we go.
I'd love a ring announcer. Stephen Bonner was our ring announcer for our first 6 fights, and he was great and lovable and fun and had struggles of his own. But
so sad.
Yeah,
fentanyl, right?
I'm not sure what it was, but I will say substances were involved.
What a fighter he was. Him and Forrest Griffin put the UFC on the map as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, that fight that him and Forrest Griffin had,
It flipped a switch for me personally. Because I watched that and I was just like, I love this.
Yeah.
And I love those 2 guys.
I love them both as well.
They were great.
I love them both as well. So you were telling me a story about that you didn't mention to Dana. Do you want to just quickly tell us that story about your son and Dana's son?
That's funny. So my son, actually I was sober at the time. My son was about 6 years old in 1st grade. And I was at the rehab, Solutions Recovery, and I got a phone call that my son was in trouble and I needed to come pick him up. So I scooted down to the school, and at the time, I was the Cub Scout master at the Meadows School. I knew all the staff. I talked to the lady in charge, and I was like, "What's going on?" And she said, "We have a 0 tolerance policy for violence, and Owen, my son, has gotten into a fight." And I looked at Owen. I said, "What happened?" And he said, this was Dana White's son, was picking on me because they're in the same grade at the Meadows in 1st grade. And I said, "What happened?" He said he brought that fat 3rd grader and he had him sit on me. And while he was sitting on me, Dana's kid was hitting me. And
his name is also Dana, right?
Yeah. I don't recall.
Yeah.
So I said, "What did you do?" He said, I ran and I told the teacher who was watching the kids at recess. And I said, "What did they say?" They said, "Don't be a tattletale." So I said, "What did you do?" So he said, "I went and I punched him in the nose." And he got a bloody nose, which is why we're here. So I looked at the school official and I said, if my kid comes and says somebody's bullying, the correct response is not "don't be a tattletale."
Right.
Because otherwise, he's going to handle it.
Exactly. That's
so
funny.
I told my kid, "Let's go get some ice cream. I guess you don't have to go to school today."
That's great. I can't wait till the next time you tell Dana that story. Matter of fact, you should get your son and bring in Dana's son and they can have a rematch. Yeah, so you're a big fan of the fights. That's good. So International Fight Week is coming up at the end of this month. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler will be at the T-Mobile Arena.
Was it postponed or is that still on?
It's on, baby.
Okay, great.
The press conference was postponed.
Okay.
And there was a little bit of talk that the fight maybe wasn't going to happen, but over the last few days it's been developed that it is going to happen. So, Conor always brings huge numbers to this town when he fights here.
And everybody wants him to come back and fight again.
Everyone wants him to come back and fight again, from the bartenders to the T-Mobile to
So entertaining.
Right? Are you a Conor fan?
I am.
Yeah, I'm a huge Conor fan, as you can probably tell by all of the memorabilia that we got here right this way.
That's pretty awesome.
Isn't that awesome? One of my fans did that for me right there. That's really great. But
the Argyle sweater vests are a good touch.
You know the movie Step Brothers? It's from that. So do you go to the UFC? Do you go to the fights a lot?
I don't go a lot. I watch them all.
Yeah.
But I go on occasion.
Yeah. No, it's a huge. I'm very blessed and very lucky that I get to talk to everybody from that organization. I have them sitting in this room across from me, and we talk, and it's such an honor and a privilege to look at these warriors and get in their heads a little bit and find out their mindset. And I always say, and it's quite funny, you've got these guys that are world champions and that, get in the cage and fight. You bring up their kids or you start talking about how, their sons and daughters, and you'll see that little tear in their eye, and you can see them get all choked up. And that's the part I love about, like, we talk about fighting when I'm with these guys. However, I like to get a little bit deeper than that and find out how they tick and how they work. And, if you can make a UFC fighter cry on your podcast, it's a good day.
If you care about the details within the UFC, one thing you should do, I don't know if you know Stephen Quinn.
No, sir.
Stephen Quinn's worked for the UFC since they opened, and he's I think he's in charge of statistics. But he's at every single fight.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that guy.
He's in a wheelchair. He's my old neighbor and a dear friend. I've been friends with him for 30 years.
So you can say to him, UFC 186, tell us who was the second fight and he'll know it, right?
I don't know if he's a savant, but he knows all the details and tracks it. But to me, I love the fact that I get to text him sometimes during fights.
And ask him stuff and he texts you back.
As opposed to, talking to guys at the bar who often don't know jack.
Is he still in Vegas?
He's still in Vegas. And he's still working the UFC. And to me, the fact that Dana has kept him on, to me, it also says a lot about Dana's character and about Steven's work ethic and his capability.
What does Steven do for the UFC?
I think he's their head statistician.
Really?
Yeah, despite being quadriplegic.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Quadriplegic's arms and legs, right?
Correct.
So he just moves his head.
Yes.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Good on you, Dana.
But Steven's so sharp.
Yeah. Wow. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I would definitely love that. So, yeah.
Maybe we'll get him on your podcast.
I would love to have him on the podcast. Maybe we could do a follow-up. Me and you will do a follow-up of this episode, and we'll bring Steven on for the next one. All three of us can sit down and chop it up.
That'd be fun.
That would be awesome. So what's the plans for the future? Like, what's next with Vegas Stronger? What's the developments? How can people help?
We are always looking for, actually the most important thing that everyone could do in the community is stop giving money, stop giving food, stop giving clothing to people who are on the streets.
Is that right?
That is enabling unhealthy behavior. On our street, where you came down to, every day, there's minivans from churches and people pulling up, handing out water bottles, handing out money, handing out food, to the point where many of the unhoused are like, why should I ever get off the corner? Stuff's going to keep getting brought to me. And people don't realize that what they're doing is they're propagating this unhealthy behavior. That if they want to donate clothes or food or money, please bring it to Salvation Army or the Catholic Mission or to Vegas Stronger, a nonprofit, so we can encourage the people who are getting their lives back on track to be fed and clothed and be taken care of. So the number one thing we could all do as a community is stop continuing the unhealthy cycle of enabling.
See, guys, that's so true because, don't let your heart guide you in this. Use your brain. You know what I mean? I'm going to do, as a matter of fact, you gave me one of those vouchers and you said that gold ticket. Give that, and that permits someone to come to your place and to get something to eat and to have a shower, right?
Almost every time you give a $5 bill to a person on the corner, that goes to drugs or alcohol. Almost every time. So despite the fact that you're telling yourself this makes you a mensch or this makes you a good Christian, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah,
Stop propagating the problem.
And I'm guilty of that because my wife says it to me all the time, and I give because it makes me feel better.
Good. Right. And that's bullshit.
That's bullshit. It is. How I like to kind of wrap things up with this podcast, Dave, is I always like to ask my guests the same question. Some of them can answer it, some of them can't. Dave Marlon, what is your message to the world?
My message to the world is that when I was drinking, I underestimated the effect that drinking alcohol had on my physical, my mental, my emotional, my partnership, my work, my spiritual connection. I grossly underestimated that effect. And if you're a normie and you have a glass of wine periodically, hey man, knock yourself out. But if you're wired more like me,
Definitely like me.
yeah, like Marcus, to me, my message to the world is recognize that, and then recognize that there is a pathway, there is a way to get a new groove. And let Marcus or let myself help you. We would both be honored to help you.
100%.
That's it. That's my message.
Dave Marlon, thank you so much, brother.
Right on. Thank you.
Guys, it's that easy. VEGASSTRONGEra.org. They're on Instagram. They're on YouTube. That's the website. If you want to help, you can. Listen to what this man said because he knows what he's doing. He's the king of giving back, and we're going to try and get on board as much as we can. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. I got to say that. I know it's cheesy, but you got to say it. And I really do appreciate you coming back to the channel. I'm very grateful and very honored to be up here every week, coming into your house or on your phone or wherever I am, and having a little bit coming into your house. That wasn't probably a good way of saying it. This is Marcus Deegan for the Marcus Deegan Show. We're out.